radical young person in the department. I said, you know what? We could be the point of expertise in the health care of black children in the United States. If anybody wanted to know about the health of black children, they would come to Howard University, Department of Pediatrics, and we would be the experts. And then we would become experts in people's health care in the Caribbean, and then experts in black people's health care in Africa. And one of my colleagues, who was married to somebody of the other persuasion, said, Francis, no, that would be second-class medicine. To become experts in self. You see, but I'm glad I was raised the way that I was. You see, where my parents always lived, worked, and I'm not bragging, I'm just talking about, well, how did I get from there to here? I didn't have a choice. It was the way I was raised. You see, be political, help black people, focus on the problems of black people. Your job going to medical school is to come out and help black people, not to go to Harvard or Yale or Princeton where there might be 3 black people. So that was my orientation. So I started writing about racism, you know, like what's making white people do the things they do. And in the I started writing the Crest Theory, 1968, 1969. I was interested in what was making black people mentally ill. See, I trained at St. Elizabeth's Hospital. And then I trained in child psychiatry at Children's Hospital, looking for what is making black people mentally ill, because I want to know, because I'm going to be a doctor to black people. But that was not a part of the curriculum. There was no focus on the mental health of black people. In the entire training in psychiatry, in the entire training in child psychiatry, as a matter of fact, at Children's Hospital, 1963 to 1966, they told us, you black people in the training program, residents in training to become psychiatrists, black people do not have the mental capacity to benefit from psychotherapy. The best treatment for black people is medication. Now this is 30 plus years later, and that is where mental health is for black people. There's no discussion of what is causing the problem. Just give them this medication, and there's more emphasis that way now than it was 30 years ago. You see, but I still was looking for, wait a minute, what this racism is making. All the patients I took histories on, racism would be someplace in the history, just like racism is in the history of every single person in this room. Affecting parents, affecting grandparents, affecting great-grandparents. Racism was being put on those slave ships. So I was, what is this racism? I interviewed a patient at DC General Hospital one night, and because, you know, if you're on call, you got to be up all night admitting whoever the police bring in or whoever families bring in that are acutely disturbed. And there was a tall black man, and I interviewed him, the first thing I wrote down was schizophrenic reaction, paranoid type. But there were not a lot of people there, so I said, I want to talk to this man and see if I can really understand what is he saying in this roundabout, confused way. And the gentleman finally said, Doc, if we can just find the keys to the cupboards. Now, if you look at the ISIS papers, you see the keys to the colors. He said if we can just find the keys to the colors. Now, that clicked in my brain because I'm looking for the answers about racism. So, 1968, while I was doing a fellowship in child psychiatry, I'd be sitting in my office, quiet, at night writing up cases, and I would get this message: go to the Black Power Committee. Now, it wasn't in here. It was in here. Those are different messages. So if you get a message here, in your ear, that means one thing. But this was, go to the Black Power Committee meeting. If you say, well, was it a male or female voice, I wouldn't be able to tell you. But it's just over and over again. I didn't go to meetings. I finally went to the Black Power meeting down on U Street. That was in the days when Stokely Carmichael, Chuck Stone, all the radicals up from the South. And at a meeting or, gathering after one of the meetings, people were sitting in an apartment on New Hampshire Avenue, and there was a man over in the corner. I've never met him. He said, racism is a system. And, when you're looking for something, see, if you don't tell yourself, a question arises in your brain computer. If you don't say, that's a stupid question, and then go and turn some music up loud. But if a question arises in your brain that you want an answer to, you will move around and eventually you find yourself encountering the answer. So I'm a psychiatrist in training. Training program doesn't teach anything about racism. You have to battle racism in the program. When I was trained in child psychiatry, one of my black colleagues said, Francis, how do you get the nerve to argue with these people? I mean, they would be saying some off-the-wall stuff. Like the head of the program once said, this was Mr. Child Psychiatry in the United States, said black people don't like their color. This is in a training seminar. Black people don't like their color because they're the color of bowel movement. Freudian psychoanalytic theory. And I said, what in the world are you talking about? Because I grew up with my mother reciting Paul Laurence Dunbar's Little Brown Baby with Sparkling Eyes. Not you, the color of bowel movement. But anyway, that's the history of psychiatry. But go to the Black Power Committee meeting. After the meeting, here's a person that you've never met saying racism is a system. And my brain, it was almost like statement, connect, there's your answer. And so I started talking to Mr. Neely Fuller, who's going to lecture next month. And I used to live right up on Fairmount, 743 Fairmount, right across Georgia Avenue. And we would meet in my apartment, Mr. Fuller, myself, another colleague who was training in orthopedic surgery. And Mr. Fuller would talk about his ideas. And we would be kind of yelling and screaming at each other because the other colleague, he was a Marxist. I had been a Marxist and put it down because it didn't answer the question. I remember going home one day from college, and the family is eating dinner, and I said, I'm a Marxist. And my grandmother said, the more education they get, the dumber they get. See, I knew she didn't know what she was talking about. I'm 16. Anyway, great grandmother was, right? But we would talk about these ideas back and forth and back and forth.